Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to Trail Talk. I'm Edie, and I'm here live in our classroom studio at the Chisholm Trail Heritage Center in Duncan. And we have a very special guest joining us via Zoom today. His name is Bill Voelker. Did I say that right, Bill?
No.
Voelker. Is that right?
It's Voelker in Germany, but Voelker's close.
Okay.
Voelker's close enough.
Let me put my Okie accent on it and just ruin it badly. Anyway, Bill is with SIA, and SIA is an Eagle Conservatory and Comanche Cultural Center that's located in Cyril, Oklahoma. And I'd be surprised if many of you know where Cyril is. It's roughly 50 minutes kind of north and west of Duncan, and a very small town. I know exactly where it is because I grew up there. So I spent many years. We still go back there because my mom and dad still live in Cyril. And Bill, you did some growing up there as well, I think.
I did. We've had a Comanche presence here in Cyril since long before there were any non-Comanches in the area. Right.
Yes, and tell the viewers the history of Cyril as far as becoming a community and the name of the town.
Well, SIA is established where we are very specifically because of our history, our Comanche history here. Cyril has a distinction of being the only town deliberately established on Comanche allotment land. The family members of Pianavonit, or Big Looking Glass, a leader of our people at the time of forced captivity, he had a baby granddaughter who, just after she received her land allotment of 160 acres, she died of a childhood disease. So in keeping in our old way of not holding on to things of the deceased, her father offered for sale her 160-acre allotment to the original town board people wanting to establish a town here. The railhead was already here. It made sense to have a town here. Shipping goods would be easy. And there are many misinterpretations of the name Cyril. The truth, after decades of research, is the little Looking Glass granddaughter, her Comanche name being Cyril, misspelling it or mispronouncing it. Cyril is how it's said in the rest of the world.
Right.
You hear it in Great Britain a great deal. But anyway, in an effort to come up with a name that sounded like the little girl's name, that's how we ended up with Cyril. But the Looking Glass connection is very important. Matter of fact, we renamed the street we're located on to Looking Glass Way to honor that tradition.
Right.
But we feel like we're the most fortunate of the Comanches who suffered forced captivity, and that those Comanches ended up on land allotments that they did not have a historic connection with. Our situation is different in that we actually lobbied for specific lands in this area because this was a wintering ground for our people and our horses. Our band, one of the bands that formed just about the time of our forced captivity, mid-1870s, were known as the Ononona. That translates as the salty water people.
Salty water people?
Salty water. We live on a gypsum shelf here. And any of the, as you well know, and any of the lakes and ponds, they leach that gypsum. But on the outskirts of town, where the limestone and sandstone come together, we have excellent freshwater springs, in addition to the little canyons and arroyos, which made for a great place to winter our horse herds. So this is an area we had a historic presence. And much of the cultural lifeways we keep alive today here at SIA come from an unbroken chain of knowledge and practicing that is a direct result of our ancestors who settled this area.
I that just gives me so much pride to be from Cyril, even, even more than I may have had before, just realizing what a great connection to history that little community has. That's
it's so important to us in the bigger picture, in that a big part of the Army's plan, once we heathens were forced into captivity, was to have the Christian missionaries ready to bring God to us.
right.
You won't find much people that pray more than our people, but anyway, we were perceived as heathens. Well, at the time, our Ononona settled here around Cyril. We were the furthest removed of any of the Comanches receiving allotments, basically getting our own lands back. And because of that distance, in the day, it was a fairly long horseback ride or a buggy ride. And the sheer distance protected us from much of the pressures being forced on us by the Army. And because of the lack of conversion efforts and all in the early days of forced captivity, we held on to our cultural lifeways much longer than some of the other groups of Comanches. And I'm often asked why. I can't tell you why. We have so many people buried at our Comanche cemetery here that lived in excess of 100 years. So those people, like our little grandmother, bringing these lifeways forward, it represents an unbroken chain. So we take that responsibility very seriously in keeping that lifestyle going, just as it was handed down to us.
Right. So I don't want to get ahead of us to get ahead of ourselves. First of all, would you kind of explain to the viewers maybe the purpose or the mission of SIA, and maybe the whole title of your organization?
Okay, well, SIA, it's not an acronym. It's our Comanche word for feather.
Okay.
How our people historically connect with the energy of the eagle and other birds of cultural importance is through the feather. The belief is the energy of the bird is encapsulated in each and every feather grown by that bird in its lifetime. So SIA, we wanted to keep the name simple for our people, our traditional people. The byline, the Comanche Nation Ethno-Ornithological Initiative, a real mouthful, but that describes for the outside world, the non-Indian world, who we are and what we do. And the Comanche Nation we've been affiliated with since the beginning. And it's more about being here for our Comanche people as opposed to the political entity, the Comanche Nation. We have not always been supported by the politicos because we are so dedicated to absolute historical accuracy. That's not popular with a lot of the politicos who are not of that ilk. But the rest of the word, ethno, ornithological, ethno, meaning culture, a study of culture, ethno, the study of culture, ornithology, the study of birds. So it's knowing the bird through the eyes of our ancestry. And that is basically the strongest part of what we do. Unfortunately, our people are losing the connection with avian species of cultural importance. The use of feathers throughout our pre-captivity history was very specific. We didn't wear feathers randomly. We didn't call on bird energy randomly. A specific species was called on for specific reasons, and the plumage was specific. Made all the difference in the world if it was from a male or a female member of the species. The age of the bird makes a great difference. So first and foremost, we are established to try to reunite our people with the absolute historically accurate relationship we have with our avian species of cultural importance. People clamor to us all the time, I want this feather, I want that feather. Well, what we try to instill is why you think you need that feather, why your ancestors directed you to use certain feathers. And so that's when we bring our tribal population together face to face with the living bird. And it's not just eagles. We require the energy of many different types of birds. So first and foremost, it's to maintain that relationship. But how we do that is we have amassed the largest single archive on Comanche history that's ever been put together. We have now over 4,400 historic images in the photographic collection. And these are early images going back to glass plate negatives. And from glass plate, we transfer to film, from film to digital. So we have all those images secured. We have now just over 500,000 pages of unpublished documents about our history, going all the way back to transcripts of the early Spanish writings about first encounter. We have an audio collection, earliest recordings of our songs and stories and just speaking our language. And the fourth segment is the actual material cultural collection. Items that our people used, carried, and wore, going back in some cases over 300 years. And how we maintain that collection is in a state-of-the-art series of vaults maintained with ionic purification of every molecule of air that comes in contact with our historic life items. Museums like to say artifacts. We prefer life items because on the spiritual items, they continue giving to us to this very day. So truly life items in the full sense of the word. Right. So that is the basis for everything SIA does, is an absolute accurate understanding of where we come from and what birdways we bring forward.
So is Cyril, the Cyril location, is that the only SIA location, like physical location that there is?
No, I'm glad you asked. Our primary exhibit archival office complex is in Cyril proper. Outside of town, we have now 60 acres where we have ceremonies, we gather for traditional dances, and the bulk of the breeding pairs of eagles that we care for are held out on the rural location. In addition to that, the first couple of warehouses you pass as you come into Cyril from Fletcher, those are leased, and that's home to our feather repository. After 40 years of fighting with the federal government, we finally established SIA as the one and only tribal feather repository. So not only can we help our own tribal members, but we can provide feathers to any member of a federally recognized tribe. And how we secure those feathers is from federally permitted sources. Zoos, rehabilitation centers, falconers, educators, anyone with a federal permit that has birds can send the molted feathers. And if birds die, they can send the carcasses, which we then process and send out to tribal members all over the country.
Wow, that is what a network you have established. Have you been with SIA since the beginning? How many years has SIA been an organization?
We have a word in our language, it's namavitsiaka, which means don't be boastful. So when you ask direct questions like that, you know, it started generations ago with this concept of a cultural oneness with the bird spirit. However, personally, I'm the founder of SIA. My co-director, who's a number of years younger, has been along since he was old enough to take up the torch. Troy, his Comanche name, he was taken in and an old-time adoption, making him a captive by our grandmother. And he was brought in not in an honorary way like, you know, we do people we want to thank for being close to us, but he was brought in as a captive in the old way and has lived a Comanche life, probably more so than 98% of our male population. And so we are the directors of SIA, but it's all founded on this the bird energy and doctoring ways handed down by our ancestors.
Wow. So when you say you've, you were able to secure like with the federal government, different things, you mentioned that you're not associated with the Comanche Nation per se, like as a political organization. So would you say you're kind of did you have to lobby then? Would you say you're a lobbying organization to a degree?
Well, our existence is based on our cultural identity first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we've been involved through our family in distributing feathers since before the Comanche Nation was unique and the political entity, separate from the what's called the KCA, the Kiowa, Comanche, and Apache United Group. So our work predates Comanche Nation Inc. as far as meeting the feather needs of our people. But we exist as a nonprofit entity first and foremost to keep the work going. Mm-hmm. On top of that, we secured tribal designation 20 years ago. That was making us an official program of the Comanche Nation, but without the guarantee of funding. In the past 21 years, we have had funding from the tribe as a line item only 1 year. So we're on our own and everything we have to raise. But,
right.
But you know, we do what we have to do to maintain this legacy.
Right.
And uphold that commitment we made to our past generations.
Absolutely.
So it's a multifaceted operation, unlike anything we know that exists in Indigenous America anywhere. And I think what we excel at the most is because of our backgrounds and training, Troy and I are able to verbalize and share in a way that the outside world can understand all that we do and why we do what we do and how important it is. But as you asked about in your initial question, you know, dealing with the feds, you know, 50 plus years of that has not been easy. And we had to go that alone. And in some cases, it meant going to task. And when you're standing in your numanops, your Comanche shoes, in front of a federal judge and, you know, basically fighting the feds, it's a little daunting when the bailiff reads the United States of America versus one William Voelker. But you do what you have to do. And coming from a Comanche background, we're always up for the good fight.
Right. I have a feeling you have an education that spans from the ways that you were raised, the ways of the Comanche people, and all the way through to how to handle yourself in a court of law. I mean, wow, what amazing life experiences you must have had.
Well, you probably remember all the press 10 or so years ago when we worked to save one of our historic places of great spiritual importance, Medicine Bluffs, that happens to be on the property now owned by the United States Army. The Army has been a friend of the Comanche ever since its inception, well, after our forced captivity and the dust settled from that era. But we ran into a situation where we had leaders at Fort Sill that would not listen to our pleas not to invade a spiritual, cultural site. So it ended up having to go to court. And that's a story in and of itself. One of the great warriors of the Medicine Bluff battle is right there in where you are in your town, Tawana Spivey. He was a warrior of the nth degree with us, and we were able to beat the Army in a perceived time of war, but it was all based on the cultural sanctity of a high spiritual site. And sometimes it just takes having to dig your heels in and make the contemporary world listen to the importance of what we've cared for eons.
Right. You know, thinking about how much history has been lost, I just find it so impressive how many, or how you said 500,000 pages of documents and all of those thousands of photographs. All of those things have so much significance. I mean, it's like you're a Smithsonian or something as far as your collection of pieces of life documents. Is that what you said you call them?
Life items.
Live items, I'm sorry, live items. I am kind of blown away at thinking about you getting, how did you go about collecting those things?
Well, it was a family tradition even before I was on the scene. And even though I've lived a traditional Comanche life my whole life, mother being representing the Comanche side, my father was a mad German. He was he was crazed about indigenous culture, and that led him to live with various tribes. Matter of fact, we had eagles coming at us from both sides of the family before I was on the scene. Our Comanche side, that's a given. Dad was out west at the time. There was a great slaughter of birds like the golden eagle and other birds of prey. There were no laws protecting them. And these were ranching interests that were slaughtering the birds, not Indians. And so Dad recognized the need of the feathers, so he would salvage as much as he could of these birds being killed by outside interests. When he left that country, he made arrangements with young ranchers to send him the parts in the wintertime when they could be transported. And his plumage collection grew to be the largest of its kind. Over 2,200 golden eagles alone represented in the collection, tens of thousands of the smaller hawks and falcons and owls. And this plumage collection was the basis for me knowing the birds so intimately from the time I was a child. So the birds were coming at us from both sides.
Right, and you were destined to this.
Well, Troy and I will tell you that what we do and why we do what we do, it's the universe putting us in this particular place and time to do the very best for our people, using all of the talents and all the gifts that have come to us. And it's a unique position, and there's great responsibility that comes with that.
Right.
And when it comes to our cultural history, what motivates us the most is that we represent the last generation for all eternity that will have the benefit of learning directly from first generation Comanches following forced captivity. Right. And we can leave an excellent record as we are. We embrace the highest levels of scientific protocol in establishing the means to pass this on, but it will never be the same for anyone that comes behind us as it's been for us learning directly from first generation Comanches.
Right, exactly. So how are you able to reach the Comanche people, or how have the other people from other the tribes, how have they found you? How do they know how to contact you for the feathers and that sort of thing?
Once the feather repository was established, we put the word out through federal sources and tribal sources to let people know what we were doing. But the word was out there for years. I wasn't shy about telling all tribes what we were trying to do that could benefit everyone. And up until the time of the repository, every bird feather that was required and was secured was usually done illegally by birds being killed to meet that need. And if the federal government was not providing a legal means, our people had no choice. That's why we call the feather repository the SIA Essential Species Feather Repository, because the energy of these birds is essential if we're going to keep our cultural lifeways going. We see people with all kinds of dyed and, exotic feathers that, turkey feathers aren't going to cut it if you're praying to the Almighty in our traditional way. So it's the energy of the specific bird that we need. And so it's been a long battle to make this a reality. But we had a regional director of the Fish and Wildlife Service, the only African-American regional director we've had. And I think because of his own ethnicity, he saw more than any of his predecessors the need to listen and to hear why we needed this special authority. And, I think one day we had our library full of federal law enforcement people, because before the permit was finally issued, law enforcement needed to know what lay ahead. And, they were a little shocked to hear me say Indians are killing birds on a daily basis. And most folks won't admit that, but it's the truth. And we have to provide a kinder, gentler way rooted in absolute historical accuracy to counteract this. And so they, we won them over, but our goal is to make sure that no feather that comes through our hands ever ends up a law enforcement issue. But the message is very simple and very strong. There is absolutely no commerce allowed whatsoever in protected bird parts, feathers, talons, parts, no one. It doesn't matter how old the item is. There can be no commerce. And see, commerce was unheard of in our historic days. You had medicine people that gathered the items needed by the individuals, and there wasn't the awful drain on the wild resources like we see today. Now, we're very unpopular with a lot of segments of the indigenous community. People don't like what we say about the powwow. You can't live in Oklahoma without going to a powwow or knowing of a powwow, going to a powwow. We are not totally anti-powwow. We go to the dances. Our people probably wouldn't have a way to gather if it weren't for the powwow in that particular way. Right. But when money entered the arena, it changed everything. People go to compete and to win large cash prizes. Some of the big powwows around the nation, you can win tens of thousands of dollars as the first prize fancy war dancer. Right. Well, in many cases, it's all about impressing the judges. In many cases, if you're dripping with eagle feathers, you're going to get the attention of the judges. That's where it brings our dedication face to face, and that we're all about eagle life. We cannot abide by anyone taking the life of an eagle for monetary gain. And so we have never turned in an indigenous person. We never will. But there's probably not a powwow that happens that somebody's not selling illegal feathers out of the trunk of a car. How we go about it is through the repository for the non-eagle feathers. For the eagle feathers, we distribute the molted feathers from the live eagles we care for. And we have the only authority in the nation, Indian or non-Indian, to breed golden eagles. Wow. That goes back to our work from the late 60s, where I say I because Troy wasn't on the scene yet, produced the first golden eagle ever produced in the country, and that happened here in Oklahoma. And it was done by artificial insemination, which later we used to breed large numbers of bald eagles. At a time, the bald eagle was an endangered species. But it's this bringing forward of new eagle life on a regular basis that ensures, in addition to many other wonderful aspects of living with an eagle, it ensures a steady, dependable supply of molted feathers. You go out and kill an eagle illegally and unethically, and you have one set of feathers. If you nurture eagles through multiple generations, you have, an eagle, like a golden eagle, can live 50 years or better.
So like how many feathers would they drop in a year?
Thousands.
Wow.
We are focused on tail and wing feathers in our culture. People of the Pueblos, the desert Southwest, the individual body down is highly prized for certain ceremonies. And it always amuses us when we take live eagles for ceremony and educational outreach in the Pueblos. We'll always be asked by a group of folks to be able to clean out the back of the vehicle where the birds have traveled. Every little piece down gets used, and that makes us feel wonderful that it's used that way. But we, like I said, we're the only entity that has the authority to breed the golden eagle. There are a few other groups in the country that breed bald eagles that were grandfathered in. We breed both, but we have eagles here, that are third generation, meaning we had the great blessings of working with the grandparent eagles to these eagles. And no other entity in the country has this history of bringing new eagle life forward. And I think that gives us an incredibly strong place to stand on the conservation of these birds. You combine that with the field work, like we were talking before we went on air, of the historic golden eagle nesting survey, where we go back to nesting sites that are still active, producing young. And these sites bear our Nomina symbols, our Comanche marks.
Right.
So you combine the wild situation, the captive situation, and we take great responsibility in speaking out on all that's happening.
Right. I don't want us to cover all about the eagles, because you're going to come back on in a few weeks and tell us even more about the birds, right? Right, aren't you?
Actually, I hope we can come to Duncan and bring several eagles.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I hope we can. That'd be fantastic. Yes.
That's our plan.
Oh, good. I love that. Okay, so you did mention, I guess, that you take the birds for educational purposes, but how do you reach the young the generations beyond, or the younger people? I'm having trouble getting my words out. How do you reach the younger people, the younger generation, with all of the history that you have at your fingertips? How is their interest pulled? Because I have to wonder, are they super interested in the ways of your people, or is that something they feel like was just, that's the past? Or what is that like?
Well, it's difficult. Pre-COVID, we would focus on schools, elementary as well as junior high school schools with a Comanche population. We would focus on those schools to take educational outreach. If the schools had it within their budget to make a field trip to see it, was even better, because we can share much more on site. But that was our way of trying to get to our people, going to certain gatherings of our people. But, with all that we do with the live eagles here, with the field work, and you would think we'd have young Comanches beating down the door to work with us. And unfortunately, it's not the case. And we do everything we can to make sure the message gets out to the young people. And little by little, we're seeing an increase in the young people. Of course, COVID has hurt that effort, but we're optimistic now, where I think 10 years ago, we wouldn't have been so optimistic. So, but it's a important focus to get to the young people.
Right.
And, the continuation of this work relies on igniting the young people with some kind of passion for caring for the history.
That's what I was wondering. Are there volunteer opportunities with SIA?
There are, but our young people are plagued by today's gadgetry, just like every other group, and it gets in the way. And cell phones, unless you're using it for photographs, get turned off at SIA. We don't allow that distraction. The birds even feel at odds with it when they're hearing somebody's phone go off. So we don't allow it. But it's an uphill battle. But it's very interesting in how the truly traditional Comanches, these are Comanches that aren't necessarily involved with the tribe politically at all. But there's quite a subset of our truly traditional Comanche people who know to come to us, who know, sometimes we get a call in the middle of the night. Someone is so sick, they're asking for live eagle energy. Put a bird that is conditioned and socialized for that and go to where we need to go. So we're really on call 24 hours a day. We live on site with the eagles and the collections. And we truly live in the old way in the old days when a person had the role that we're fulfilling. where your job was to preserve and to share cultural, spiritual knowledge, you couldn't benefit yourself from that. Troy and I have lived our entire adult lives never having taken a salary from SEIA in honor of the old way where you just didn't better yourself from this sacred work. Now, don't get me wrong, SEIA puts a roof over our head and feeds us, but this is this is not a job. This is a lifestyle. And this is our station in the community. And a lot of people don't get it. A lot of our politicos don't get this at all. But it's the truth. And we think we're the wealthiest people we know. We can begin and end each day in the company of these medicine birds. And, you know, it's sacred work. And we live the way that we're supposed to with this station in our community.
Right. So the items that are behind you, is that just like an example of what kinds of things people could see? Which SEIA is not open to the public right now, if that's correct?
With COVID, we're just waiting till we see what this variant does. Right. But unfortunately, that's the case. But any other time, we're open to scheduling tours, and we get people from all over the world that will find their way to SEIA and see the things here. In addition to our native species, we have eagles from 5 continents. Because of our success in breeding our native eagles, countries around the world have partnered with us for saving their threatened and endangered eagles. So it's not just seeing eagles that you would see anywhere in the wild in the US. You'll be seeing birds that eagles that you never even knew existed. But that is how the mission has grown. So
then are indigenous people on other continents, are they tied to birds like here?
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, we make every effort we can to honor the culture of the birds of the shared homeland. You go on our website and you'll see a picture of a Maasai warrior here at SEIA. Well, we care for 7 of the great eagle species of Africa, and the Maasai have strong connections with them. So we honor that way. And the same thing with some of the tribes in South America. We have numerous species from the Amazon that hold great importance spiritually to the indigenous people there. So yeah, it wouldn't be honoring our concept and how we established our ways with native species, not to honor the species relationship with people of the shared homelands.
Right. Well, I guess I just never really put all that together in my head. So why would ranchers or other people not associated with an indigenous group of people, why would they kill these birds of prey?
Well, you have to understand the times. Early on, ranchers got into the habit of blaming an eagle for killing everything it's found eating. Eagles, both bald and golden, will take advantage of a free meal. In open sheep country, there's a high loss of lambs in the spring, and a golden eagle is not against taking a free meal. And in those early days, because there were no laws, conservation just was something to be to thumb your nose at. It was government trying to impose on you. And so, and you saw it in this area of Oklahoma, hanging hawks up on fence line. They were perceived as vermin. This hawk's going to take, my chickens. And, in reality, there are very few species that take birds like that. Most of the hawks are helpful, but we know these things now. But back then, it was a different world. And without any federal laws protecting these species, it was just do as you want, and without the knowledge. But I'm happy to say it's a different world today. But that's the bloody background that we come from. And
is it the same case with these eagles that you've helped save on other places around the world?
Not to that extent like we saw it here in America. There were other things in play. Use of pesticide and insecticides, that we make here that are banned for usage here. We still make them and outside of our borders, and we peddle them to third world nations. Power structures are a big menace. Antiquated power lines kill many an eagle and bird of prey, both in this country and abroad. We have a center in Spain that we have partnered with, helped establish in regard to our work with the Spanish imperial eagle. We actually have, as part of the facility, a series of electric poles of the bad design made. So any eagle that comes in that needs rehab and before it's released, it gets conditioned at our facility there because a slight shock is sent through these artificial power poles, and the birds very quickly learn not to land on them. So we are addressing that, but the big threat today is wind energy. Eagles can't perceive the danger of the wind turbines. And, yeah, it's getting bad, and there are wind turbines going up in great numbers right in the middle of historic Comanche country in Wyoming and Colorado. So after 51 years, we're looking at, okay, what's going to happen? Let's see, but we've got the data of 50 plus years to bring to the table, and showing what populations can be like before and now after wind energy.
So all of these years, is this just experience after experience after experience that has educated you in, all of these things you need to do, like, working with those eagles so that they know to stay away from those, conditioning them to stay away from that danger to them? I mean, I'm fascinated by how you acquired all of this knowledge.
Well, much of it is hands-on. In many areas of our eagle research, there was nothing to base the move ahead on.
Right.
And like with artificial insemination with eagles, it simply wasn't done before the 70s. And so that was a true pioneering effort. But there was a time I bit the bullet and I went to Cornell. At the time, Cornell was the mecca of ornithology, bird study. And the main reason that propelled me to going to Cornell, I'd already produced my first eagle in captivity, but I went on because I was seeing so many young indigenous people, well, people my age and a little older, that were going through the academic system and coming out changed. They weren't bringing the knowledge back to their home communities. They weren't benefiting the people from what they learned going through academia. So I decided I was going to go on a raiding mission, and through good friends at OU, Dr. George Sutton, the main motivator, I waltzed into Cornell. I had an office in the lab of ornithology, and I took a cherry-picked group of graduate courses to further my studies. I wasn't going to buy into a degree program. I went to raid for the knowledge that could help my work, and left intact. And but it was a different world then. It was funny to be, the new kid on campus, and then before you know it, I'm guest lecturing on the artificial insemination of native eagles. But something interesting then, invariably, when I was asked to speak on my success to that date, invariably someone took me aside and said, but don't talk about the Indian stuff. The Indian stuff is why I was successful, because we approach the eagles in a way of sanctity and understanding that we have the trust of these eagles that we breed from, and it makes all the difference in the world. 50 years
the next level, it was next level that other people just didn't have and didn't understand the passion for it. I'm sure it was different.
Right. But the good news is 50 years later, people are asking us to speak around the world because of the indigenous connection. So in just one lifetime, I've seen that go full circle, and that is a good thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that in and of itself has to inspire you to keep fighting the good fight, because you've seen, how it's been hard, but look at where you've come.
Well, I look at, we surround our place, ourselves with images from the collection, blown up practically life size.
Mm-hmm.
So we look into the eyes of our ancestry every day, and we understand the difficulties of their life. And things seem to get a little tough. We just compare it to what they went through, and it doesn't hold a candle.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So true. So how would someone go about supporting SIA? I mean, you guys are a nonprofit. I know that financially you have to be able to look to the future, and to do that you need finances. So what's a way someone could support you guys financially?
On the website, there's a donate page, and that's registered through PayPal. It's a very clean way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, contributing through check, information's on the website. I mentioned that we've had no support, or very little support, from Comanche Nation, even
Right.
the official program of the nation.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say that for the first time in 21 years, we have hope. We have elected a new chairman who isn't all about themselves. He's
Right.
about lifting the people up. He was here at SIA before we elected him, and we have great hope in this man. He understands what we do, how we do it, and is supportive of all the legitimate programs within the tribe. And
Excellent.
so Chairman Womavoya, I think, is going to be the champion of SIA.
Oh, great. Yay. That's great to hear. So where is the headquarters of the Comanche Nation?
Just outside of Lawton, near Medicine Park, just off the turnpike, is
Okay.
headquarters.
All right.
And as you ask about funding, the saddest part about the funding situation today, of course, COVID has impacted us greatly, but we have now outlived all of our primary patrons that stood by us going back to the 70s. We've simply outlived them. And in many cases, the next generation's not willing to fund the same kind of charities that their parents did. So, that says things both good and bad about us, but it's the stark reality of what we face today. So we're going to have to reinvent ourselves as far as funding for the future.
Absolutely. Well, I hope you guys are able to open your doors soon. I told you the first time we spoke, I've driven by there every time I've driven to Surreal for 30 years. Well, yeah, probably. And I never have stopped in there. And now that I want to, I can't. So that's what I get, I guess. But I want to come there, and I want to see everything firsthand, and just be able to experience all of that. And I'm very excited about you guys coming in October and bringing some of your birds with you. That's going to be fantastic. So anyway, we'll put your website information in the comments of this Facebook post whenever it goes out. And so hopefully the viewers will be able to contact you if they have questions, or, to donate, or whatever help we hope that you get as a result of this program today.
We appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for being on Trail Talk today. Again, you guys will be seeing whenever they're going to be back on, but it's toward the end of October. And anyway, I'm just appreciate you sharing everything. I'm kind of blown away with everything that you have there. It's just amazing to me. You talk about a hidden jewel. Sometimes I talk about the Heritage Center as being a little hidden jewel in Oklahoma. I think SIA is even hidden more for people. So hopefully this is going to help get the word out a little bit more. So whenever we sign off of Trail Talk, we say happy trails together. So if you're ready. We just say it, we don't have to sing it.
I'll listen to you.
You don't want to hear that, trust me. But thanks again for being on, and we'll see you in just a few weeks.
Good to be with you.
Okay, well, see you next time. Happy trails.
Happy trails.